with. And that could be that I want the fire, the warmth in my heart for Imam Hussein Islam to burn even stronger. To burn even stronger. And you can achieve that. It's not impossible. It's possible. For every one of us, we can have this heat in our hearts for Imam Hussein Islam to burn even stronger. And the way to do that is by performing your wajibats, performing your obligations. It's no good just becoming or calling yourself an Azadar or a Husseini with not having the characteristics of a Husseini and an Azadar. We should be the best in the community. We should have the best character in the community. But unfortunately, we find that is missing. I'm not saying that you cannot be an Azadar and also don't expect you to become Ma'soom. We are sinful people. We will sin. We will make mistakes. But whenever you make a mistake, whenever you do something wrong, try to pull yourself back because you are an Azadar. Because your tears have value. Because your matam has value. Because you're sitting here has value. It has value in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes you do not know what the value your own actions are. Sometimes when a person gives one date for sadaqah, in the hereafter he is given thousands and millions of dates in reward. Why? It's because the niyat and the intention when he gave that sadaqah, gave that date, was so pure, Allah multiplied it by millions of times. We might think that we've only come here for 10 days, but maybe the thawab and the reward which will be written in our amals, in the register of our good deeds, may be for millions of years. Maybe for millions of years. That you did Azadari. We have 60, 70 years of our life. And maybe we've been doing Azadari for maybe 60 years, since the age of 10. And you had 60 years of Azadari. But in the hereafter, Allah may well have written, he has been an Azadar for 6 million years. And I'm saying what I've said with some authority and responsibility. And I'll explain why I've said this. There is a question, I'm not discussing my topic at the moment. I will come to my topic in a few minutes. I just want to do some introductory things, and inshallah 5-6 minutes time I'll start my subject. The reason why I've said this is because the question is often asked in books by non-Muslims, by Muslims themselves. They say, my life was 60 years. My life was 60 years. They say, I have been a bad Muslim for 60 years, ever since I became Baligh. So for at least 45 years of his age, since the age of 15, he has been a bad Muslim. He has not prayed. He has not done any good deeds. No Hajj, no Sawm, no Siyam, nothing at all. How can Allah punish somebody for eternity, for millions and millions and millions of years, when he has only sinned for 65 years? Allah is adil. We regard Allah as just. Allah does not do dhulm upon anybody. How can we explain this? I want you to remember what I said at the beginning about Azadari. It's connected to that. I'm going to try to conclude on this. Give you why there's so much reward for this. So how can a man who has sinned for 45 years be punished in Jahannam for millions of years? It would only be fair. He sinned for 65 years and given 45 years of punishment. Because the first 15 years you have to ignore, because he was Nabali. He was not adolescent. He was not mukallif. He did not have the taklif of Sharia upon him. So would it not be fair to say that Allah should punish him for 45 years in the hereafter? No. No. Allah has to punish him. Allah has to punish him. Allah has to punish him if he is non-Muslim for eternity because he didn't accept Islam. But for a Muslim, he may well be punished for millions of years, millions of years, millions of years, and even billions of years. For only 45 years of ma'siyah, 45 years of doing bad deeds. The answer to this is, if this person who lived for 60, 70 years, he would have lived his life the same way. He would have lived his life the same way. If you increased his life to 100 years, he would still live the life of a sinner. If he lived for 1,000 years, he would still live the life of a sinner. Because his niyat was that I will sin continuously, so the punishment has to be continuous as well. There's a balance. There's a balance. Because the sin was continuous, istimrar, it continued. And the punishment also had to continue. Whereas if he did tawbah, then all his sins are forgiven. But because he did not sin, that means his sins will continue for eternity. Now on the other hand, a person who does a good deed, for us, we're sat here. If we lived for 200 years, we will still come to azab. We will still come to azab. We will still do azadari. If we lived for 1,000 years, we would still be azadars. So the reward of us coming here continues, because our intention is, as long as we live, we will come. That means there's continuity in the actions of azadari, in the azadari, or any other good deed that you do. There's continuation. The same way that Allah has punished that person who has continued to do sin for eternity, our reward for azar and all good deeds will be for eternity. Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Today, I'm going to talk about a very, very important subject in Shiaism. It's regarded as one of the core central themes in Shiaism, and that is the event of Ghadeer Khum. You have heard the events of Ghadeer Khum many, many times during the Jashrans. However, you only get a glimpse, a snapshot of the event. I'm not going to give you a snapshot. I want to give you some broader picture of the events of Khum Ghadeer. What happened before, during and after. And maybe if I do not finish the whole of my lecture today, maybe tomorrow I'll try to bring all the ideas together. This ayah is very, very famous. Very, very famous. There's two ayahs which are very, very famous. And our ulama, zakirin, lecturers often recite this. And that is, it's in Surah Ma'idah, verse number 67. It goes, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuha ar-Rasul, balligh ma unzila alayka min rabbik, wa illam taf'al fama balagta risalata, wallahu ya'asmuka min an-nas, inna allaha la yahdi al-qawm al-kafirin. That is just one sentence. That's one sentence in Surah Ma'idah, verse number 67, one ayat. But if you look at the ayat, let me just give you the translation first. It says, Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh ma unzila alayka min rabbik. O Messenger, balligh, deliver that which has been sent upon you, which has given to you. And then, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. And if you do not do this, for you have not delivered the message. This is the second part of this sentence. And the third part, وَاللَّهُ يَعْصِمُكَ مِنَ النَّاسِ. Allah will protect you from the people. And the fourth part, that was the third part. The fourth part, وَاللَّهُ يَعْصِمُكَ مِنَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Indeed, Allah will protect you from the qawm al-kafirin. Inna Allah la yahdi al-qawm al-kafirin. Sorry, Allah will not guide the qawm al-kafirin. Allah will not guide those people who are kafir. So in this ayah, the reason I have to go over this ayah so many times, because there's an important point within this ayah. So this ayah has 4 parts. And if you open Surah Ma'idah, Salat Muhammad wa Muhammad. And if anyone wants to check, they can. And I want you to actually just look at the ayat yourself. I'm going to pass this Quran around, and it's verse number 67. Show some? Yeah, ayat. Ya ar-Rasul. I just want to look at that ayat. There's a very, very interesting point in this ayat. It doesn't seem obvious, but it's a very, very fine point which comes out in the whole of the event of Ghadeer. And the reason why I'm mentioning Ghadeer, because Ghadeer is basically the preliminary of the events which are going to befall the family of the Prophet ﷺ. So it's one ayat, verse number 67. But it has 4 parts. Any sentence can have different clauses. There can be 2 clauses, 3 clauses, 4 clauses. This ayat has 4 separate clauses, meaning they're short phrases. Ask me. Ya ar-Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik. O Messenger, deliver that which has been sent to you. If you do not, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. And if you do not do this, you have not delivered the message. وَاللَّهُ يَعْصِمُكَ مِنَ النَّاسِ. Allah will protect you from the people. إِنَّ اللَّهَ, the last clause, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْكَافِرِينَ. That's 4 clauses in this one ayah. 4 parts to this one ayah. First, let's now break the clauses down. Let's see what the meanings are in reference to what I'm saying. First of all, Allah is talking to Rasulullah directly, saying, Ya ar-Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik. O Messenger, deliver. Balligh, deliver. This is amr. It's called amr, meaning a command. A command. Allah commands Rasulullah to do something. The interesting point is, has Allah ever sent a message to Rasulullah and Rasulullah not delivered? MashaAllah. He's always delivered. Whenever an ayat was revealed, Rasulullah always delivered. And also the interesting point is, Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh ma unzila alayka. Unzila alayka. Mean I have sent to you. That means something was revealed to Rasulullah. It wasn't something which perhaps Rasulullah had in a dream. It wasn't a dream. If it was a dream, it still would have value. But this is unzila ilayka. I have revealed to you. Unzila. I have sent you. I have sent you this message. Unzila ilayka min rabbik. And Allah said, it came from me, min rabbik. From your Lord. From your Lord. Min rabbik. So this is the amr, this is the command. And then the second part is interesting again. Allah is saying to Rasulullah, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. And if you do not deliver, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ, if you do not do this, for you have not delivered any message. No. Brothers, this is the last year. Rasulullah has only a few days left to live. Rasulullah has delivered for 23 years, just under for 23 years already. Why this tone? Why this tone? وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ. And I'm saying this with this responsibility. If you read the whole of the Quran, Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh ma unzila alayka. This clause happens in other parts of the Quran as well. This style, Ya ayyuha Rasul. There's another ayat in the Quran where Allah says, Ya ayyuha Rasul. In another place. Also, Wallahu ya'simuka minan nas. Allah will protect you from the people. Rasulullah has been protected. There are other verses in the Quran with a similar meaning. Also, Inna Allah la yahdi al-qawm al-kafirin. Allah will also protect you from the people, and Allah will not guide the qawm al-kafirin. Inna Allah la yahdi al-qawm al-kafirin. Allah will not guide the qawm al-kafirin. It says in other places as well. In the whole of the Quran, there is one clause where it is not repeated, and that is وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. Nowhere in the Quran has Allah said to Rasulullah that if you do not do this, you have not delivered any message. Nowhere in the whole of the Quran does this occur. It's only in this ayat Iblaq, that Allah is saying وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ. And this is directed directly to Rasulullah. That if you do not do this, for you have not delivered the message. Rasalitahu, meaning Allah's message. Risala, the message, His message. Rasalitahu. Risalatahu, His message. So, in these four clauses, the four parts of this sentence, one is for Rasulullah. Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh, that's for Rasulullah. Second is also for Rasulullah. Meaning, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. If you do not do this, you have not delivered the message. Who is this connected to? Rasulullah. But the second two clauses, the second two parts of this ayat is وَاللَّهُ يَعْصِمُكَ مِنَ النَّاسِ. Allah will protect you from the people. And إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْكَافِرِينَ. And Allah will not guide the qawm al-kafirin. So these two parts are the second two. They are not connected to Rasulullah. They are connected to people. Rasulullah is going to be protected from whom? The people. So this second two parts of this ayat are to do with the people. Wallahu ya'simuka minan nas, inna Allah la yahdi al-qawm al-kafirin. Nas and kafirin. Two categories of people. That the ayat is addressing. Allah will protect you from the people, and Allah will not guide the qawm al-kafirin. I hope you have an idea of this one ayat. Has four parts. Four clauses. One is the amr. One is the warning to Rasulullah. The third is Allah is going to protect Rasulullah from the people. And the fourth is that Allah is not going to guide the people. So that is the framework of this ayat. And this ayat was revealed where? Where? On Ghadeer Khum. We'll come to Ghadeer Khum in a minute. But this is the context of all of this conversation, of this lecture. This ayat, where it's revealed, and what happened. And why, what happened, why it happened. Let us now go one step back. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in the 10th year of Hijri, the 10th year of Hijri, decides to go on Hajj. And the people realize Rasulullah is going to Hajj. And they come from all the surrounding areas that Rasulullah is going to Hajj. And people camp outside of Medina because Medina becomes so busy with people. Rasulullah makes his preparation to go to Hajj. He leaves Medina. Mawla Ali is not with Rasulullah. When Rasulullah leaves for Hajj, Mawla Ali is not with Rasulullah. Do you all know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The next part is Mawla Ali is in Yemen. Mawla Ali is in Yemen. When Rasulullah leaves Medina, he sends a letter to Mawla Ali. Mawla Ali has gone on a mission to convert the Yemenis to Islam. It was a successful mission. Many Yemenis became Muslim. And Mawla Ali was given the zakat, was given the jizya from the Najrans, the Christians who did not convert. Rasulullah sends a letter to Mawla Ali to meet me in Makkah. Meet me in Makkah. Mawla Ali reaches Makkah before Rasulullah. And when Rasulullah comes, Rasulullah sees Mawla Ali's face and smiles to see his brother. Rasulullah ﷺ also has with him the sacrificial animals, the dung, meaning the rams, the camels. He had the camels. And when Rasulullah met Mawla Ali, Rasulullah asked Mawla Ali, in what intention did you make the niyat of Hajj? There were before this Hajj only two types of Hajj. Two types of Hajj. And in that Hajj, in that type of Hajj, your ihrams did not come off until you had done your sacrifice. That's very important to understand. Before this Hajj, there was only two types of Hajj. And that Hajj, Qiran and Ifrad, those two types of Hajj is you did not take off your ihrams after you done your Umrah. So until the sacrifice had been delivered on Yom al-Hajj, on Yom al-Eid, that you then took off your ihram. So that was the two types of Hajj known to pre-Islam and during Islam as well. There's no third type of Hajj. When Mawla Ali said that my intention of Hajj, Ya Rasulullah, is same as your intention. That is the intention niyat I've made. Whatever Rasulullah's niyat will be, that will be my niyat. Rasulullah then performed the Umrah. Rasulullah performed the Umrah. Mawla Ali performed the Umrah. The Sahaba performed the Umrah. Everybody had performed the Umrah. It's not Hajj yet. The Hajj is on the 8th of Zil-Hajj, Yom Tarwiyah, when you start wearing the ihrams again, and then go to Mina, and then to Arafat. So, two types of Hajj. Mawla Ali made the same niyat as Rasulullah. Everybody has now completed their Umrah. Once they have completed the Umrah, Rasulullah is now teaching them a third type of Hajj. These things you will not hear on the minbar. And I'll tell you why. Because they're not interesting. Not interesting because I feel people don't want to listen to this. But you have to understand a bigger picture. If you want to understand Ghadeer, you've got to know what happened before Ghadeer in order to fully comprehend the bigger picture and what happened immediately after Ghadeer as well. But you'll only hear Ghadeer. So, Mawla Ali, Rasulullah, they have now all performed the Umrah. Once they have performed the Umrah, Rasulullah is now teaching is now teaching a third type of Hajj. It's a revelation. It's to do with a third type of Hajj, which is called Tamattu. Hajj Tamattu. This is the third type of Hajj. And that was on the last year, in the 10th of Zil-Hajj, that this ayat was revealed of Tamattu. Which means that once you have performed your Umrah, the first part of the Hajj, you then remove your ihrams. The mentality of the companions goes back to pre-Islam, goes back to the time of Jahiliyyah. If there's any change in a ritual, people say, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? That same mentality showed itself in front of Rasulullah.
MashaAllah.
The companions said, Ya Rasulullah, we've never done this before. We've always kept the ihrams on. For those of you who have not gone to Hajj, you do not know the meanings of keeping the ihram on. When you got an ihram on, you're not allowed to do about 21 things. 21 things become haram upon you. You cannot even see a mirror. You cannot comb your hair because your hair might break. And if your hair breaks when you're doing that, you have to do dam. You have to do kufar. So this is the reason why they felt this was a new type of Hajj, which is not acceptable. So they were not prepared to take off the ihrams. Allah has sent, this is very important, Allah has sent an ayat in the Quran regarding Hajj Tamattu. The companions are saying no to this ayat.
MashaAllah.
Companions are saying no to this ayat. This is hukm-e-ilahi. This is the law of Allah being ordained upon you. And these were Muslims who had been Muslims, some of them for 20 years, some for 15 years, some for 10 years. They had seen the revelations, they had seen the mu'jizat, the miracles. But today, they're objecting, just taking off their ihrams. This is the mentality that Rasulullah was facing. It wasn't that these individuals would listen to Rasulullah and would say labbayk immediately. Bala, no. These were people, if it did not conform to their mindset, they would reject it. Open disobedience. And I have in my car, which is parked down the road, a Muslim. Say Muslim. And in Say Muslim, on the Bible of Hajj, it is a narration by Aisha, al-Mu'mineen Aisha. She says, when she seen Rasulullah come into the tent, she said, Ya Rasulullah, who has made you angry? She didn't even ask that, Rasulullah, are you angry? She said, Ya Rasulullah, who made you angry? Because Rasulullah's face was showing anger. And because of this anger, Aisha said, Ya Rasulullah, who has made you angry? And the words of this hadith are that may Allah send this person to Jahannam. Aisha is saying that may Allah send this person to Jahannam, whoever has made you angry. This was the state of our Prophet, just on Hajj. And we say that the companions, I'm not criticizing the companions, this is what the history is. And this is what even the Sharias, the people who made explanation of this hadith, Sunni Imam al-Nawawi, in his Shara, he says that they should not have disobeyed Rasulullah.
MashaAllah.
Because this was something which Allah had commanded them to do. So, if anybody disobeys Allah, then he is liable to go to Jahannam. Imam Nawawi is saying this in his Shara. So this was the state of the Hajj. It wasn't a peaceful Hajj. It was a difficult Hajj for Rasulullah. Let us now move on. Imam Ali, when he was coming back from Yemen, he left a part of his contingent behind, not to enter Makkah. Wait until I call you, he told his soldiers. Mawla Ali had gone, he performed Umrah and then called his army in. When he seen his army coming without his permission, wearing the ihrams, Imam Ali said, I told you not to leave the position I gave you. You had to wait until I commanded you to come. And I told you, you were not to touch the mal. I wanted to show the whole of the zakat, the jaziyyah, to Rasulullah. You are wearing the ihrams, the zakat and the jaziyyah which was given, but you are wearing it. Mawla said, take it off. This upset some of the companions who were with Mawla Ali. They then went to Rasulullah and complained to Rasulullah that Imam Ali did this to us.
MashaAllah.
And Rasulullah said, do not complain about Imam Ali. For he is severe and strong in implementing the laws of Allah.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
The Hajj was performed under these conditions. So, this issue of the complaint of Mawla Ali was resolved. It was resolved. The people, a few people who complained, they were told by Rasulullah not to complain about Mawla Ali. That was the end of the matter. That was the end of the matter. Now, during the Hajj, Rasulullah made some very, very important khutbahs. And the khutbah of Arafat is a very famous one. It talks about rights, it talks about taking blood, revenge against each other. It talks about the maqam and the status of the elevation of the Ahlul Bayt, and also talked about the importance of the Ahlul Bayt. And talked about the Hajj. The Hajj was actually a practice session for the Muslims forever, because they asked this question: is this type of Hajj, the Hajj Tamattu, is this for this year or is it for eternity? Rasulullah said it is for now and eternity. So this third type of Hajj was for eternity. So in this light of what happened, the obedience of the companions was already under question.
MashaAllah.
This question I could not finish off the last time. The question is, and this is often be said, if saying Man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla was so important and it was a part of deen, why didn't Rasulullah say it at Arafat? Why didn't he say this at Arafat, at Mina, or Muzdalifah? Why? The question is asked. The answer is sometimes so obvious that even, because if you have something right close to your eyes, you can't see it. You need to put something at a distance. The question questions, but sometimes the answer is not forthcoming. Had Rasulullah announced Man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla at Arafat, people would have said this was the issue of the Yemenis. What happened when Mawla Ali was coming back? So Rasulullah wanted to make this clear. So there would have been what is known as an attachment. There would have been an attachment to this saying and to what happened to Mawla Ali, and the feelings that some of the companions expressed regarding Mawla Ali. I'll take about another 5-10 minutes and then I'll finish. So this is one of the compelling reasons, why Rasulullah, what did he do? He delayed. He delayed. This part of the ayat that I have read in front of you وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ. What has been revealed to you? Personally, I do not know where. I know when this ayat was revealed. يَا أَيُّهَا الرَّسُولُ بَلِّغْ مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ. I know when that was revealed, but I could not find anywhere when Allah had commanded Rasulullah to deliver man kuntu mawla.
MashaAllah.
When this revelation, وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ, when this part, meaning the reliant, it may well have been, brothers, it may well have been Dawood al-Rashida. It might have gone back, nearly 10, 15 years ago. It might have gone back 20 years ago. It might have gone back to the time when Rasulullah made the first adhan in the world.
MashaAllah.
Because there's no fixed time. وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ. When this was revealed? We don't know. But we do know that Ya Ayyuha Rasul Balligh Ma was revealed on Ghadeer, on the day of Ghadeer, on the 18th of Zilhaj. This caravan, this ocean of people, 90,000, 100,000, moved towards Medina. And Jufa is just south of Ghadeer, about 3 or 4 miles south of Ghadeer. Ghadeer is north of Jufa. And at some time, when Rasulullah reached the area of Ghadeer, this ayat was revealed. يَا أَيُّهَا الرَّسُولُ بَلِّغْ مَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ وَإِنْ لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ وَاللَّهُ يَعْصِمُكَ مِنَ النَّاسِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْكَافِرِينَ. That's one ayat. One ayat. Just one ayat. But it has 4 different. This is I've given you an introduction to this. The whole concept of this ayat. It has 4 parts. It has, if I give you the Quran to look at, it has 4 parts. This ayat is one ayat, but having 4 different parts. 2 are connected to Rasulullah, and 2 are not connected to Rasulullah. The first 2 are connected to Rasulullah, and the second 2 is something to do with the Qawm Kafirin and all of, and also with the Nas as well, the people. So these 2 parts is something which will happen to those who oppose this, whatever this message is going to be. Rasulullah, and that's very, very interesting point here. We listen to this ayat and we automatically think Rasulullah stopped immediately, and then got the camels and their saddles and put them together and made the mimbar and made the announcement. No, it doesn't go like that.
MashaAllah.
According to some books, Rasulullah received this ayat in the area of Ghadeer, 5 hours before Zuhr. 5 hours before Zuhr. So that means if Zuhr was approximately at 12 o'clock, then it had to be before 7. The ayat was revealed before 7. So that means maybe 2 hours before or 2 hours after Fajr. So just after Fajr, this ayat was revealed. The question is, why the delay of 5 hours? Why the delay? And during this delay, Jibreel is coming down. Ya Rasulullah, why haven't you delivered? Ya Rasulullah, why haven't you delivered? And this happened 3 times. Rasulullah knew that this place is the place where he has to deliver this message. He cannot go any further. But Rasulullah now, in his infinite wisdom, in the wisdom that Allah had given him, he wanted everything to be perfect. Everything to be perfect. He asked all the area to be swept, to be made clean. He then asked people who had gone ahead, to some of them, which
MashaAllah.
people who had gone ahead, Rasulullah told them to come back. And if you are ahead of me, and I call you back, you think, oh no, something's happened. He's either been involved in an accident, or either he's broken down. And this is what happens when you're on a journey, and you get a phone call, could you come back please? You think either he's run out of petrol, it's not you. Either you run out of petrol, or something's happened. So, obviously people are beginning to think, what's happened? Why is Rasulullah calling us back? And those who are behind are being told to move forward. It's like in an accident, police are pushing you forward, and then police are asking you to come back because there's danger. So in the whole of this 100,000 people, there is this question. We have just done Hajj. We've completed Hajj. And to prove that we've done Hajj, look at our heads. We've got no hair. So what is the problem now? Has there been a mission in Hajj? Do we have to go back to Hajj and do something else? What is the problem? It took nearly 5 hours for the people who had... When you have 100,000 people in a procession, you can reach up to 10 miles, 15 miles in each direction. So you had to wait for the people to come back. And when they came back and gathered at this plain, what happened? They started to ask this question. What has happened? What has gone on? Now, when everybody is ready, everybody is anxious, impatient to find out what's happened. Something important has happened because we finished Hajj. And Rasulullah has also told them that next year I may well not be here.
MashaAllah.
Rasulullah knew. Now, this ayat, Wallahu ya'asmuka minan nas, that Allah will protect you from the people. Was Rasulullah scared of his own life? Was Rasulullah, and this ayat, Wallahu ya'asmuka minan nas, Allah will protect you from the people. What type of protection was this? Inna Allah la yahdil qawmil kafirin. Allah will not guide those people who are kafir. What type of guidance was this? What type of protection was this? Was Allah now going to say, now, deliver this message, then what I'll do, I'll send some bodyguards to look after you until you die? No. This is the crunch of the whole of this lecture. What type of protection was being given to Rasulullah? He wasn't given bodyguards. He was being given something which actually, the secret lies in this ayat itself.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
The secret is so obvious, when you read it, it misses you. Let me now just, for one moment, move and give you an example of how the companions understood some of the sayings of Rasulullah. In Khaybar, you have heard this many, many times. لَأُعْطِيَنَّ رَائِةً غَدًا. لَأُعْطِيَنَّ. I will definitely give.
Success.
No. I will لَأُعْطِيَنَّ. We have Mawla and Imran. They understand this, and inshallah you will as well. Lam and Noon is for emphasis. لَأُعْطِيَنَّ رَائِةً غَدًا. I will give the banner tomorrow. To whom? To him who will be victorious. And the word is ghadan, tomorrow. And if you read all of the books, ghadan, whenever you say tomorrow, inshallah kal kuch kaam karenge, you always say inshallah. Ghadan is always inshallah. Rasulullah never used inshallah. The companions knew that this saying of Rasulullah means whoever has this flag tomorrow, he is going to be 101% successful. Because that was the nature of this saying of Rasulullah. I will give the banner to him tomorrow who will be strong, who will not be running away from this. So this made them anxious, the companions anxious. It made them want to have the banner the following day, because they knew the way, the wording of this saying of Rasulullah was worded. They knew exactly what it meant. This ayah, when Rasulullah cleared Ghadeer, made it clean, and then he got up on the minbar, and then he said, this ayah was recited. It was recited in front of the companions, because the companions wanted to know why they had stopped there. And this ayah was going to answer that.
MashaAllah.
This ayah was now going to answer that curiosity which they had. And that curiosity was, why have we stopped here? Rasulullah recited this. Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh ma. This is now important. Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh ma. I've told you the nature of these 4 different clauses. Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh ma unzila alayka min rabbik. For an Arab, they know how the wording is. We need translations. The Arabs knew the meaning of this. They knew the harshness of the words. They knew this wasn't the same beautiful, loving tone. It was an official tone. And then the second part, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. And they also knew that this has never occurred in the Quran before. They have listened to the Quran. They had listened to the Quran. Never before, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ had been repeated in the Quran before. This was the first place in the Quran where Allah is saying to Rasulullah that if you do not deliver this, for you have not delivered the message. وَإِلَّا, you have not delivered. So the companions knew automatically, just from the 2 parts of this ayat, that something serious was about to be said. And then the second part, the second 2 parts, وَاللَّهُ يَعْصِمُكَ مِنَ النَّاسِ, and إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْكَافِرِينَ. These 2 parts was not to do with Rasulullah, was to do with them, those who were listening. They knew Rasulullah was going to deliver a message, and they had to listen. And if they did not obey, this is the most beautiful part of all this. If they disobeyed this command, what would happen? Allah first of all would protect Rasulullah from anything they were planning to do. And second part is that Allah would not guide Qawm al-Kafirin. That's going to go into a different direction, and I haven't got time for that. Inshallah, maybe tomorrow. So when the companions heard this ayah, they knew Rasulullah was going to deliver an important message, and secondly, they knew that if they refused to accept this message, they would be open to the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah is saying that I will not guide those people who have become kafir. Kafir in what? Whoever denies this message which is about to come. Then I'm about to wrap up. Then Rasulullah delivers his khutbah. He says, Man kuntu mawla fa hada aliyun mawla.